Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. And Sarah, if you play that background music, I swear.
The viewers have voiced their opinions. They love the background music.
And nobody said that.
Yeah, no one said that. But how is it going, everyone? We're going to talk about 5 different things in this video, timestamps down below. I don't have a bunch of notes, but a lot of things have been going on. Obviously, NWSL, the playoff race is here. You know, we talked about it last time. Angel City losing Alyssa Thompson. How does that bode well for their playoff run? It will be tough. Kansas City will probably win the Shield, but a lot going on in the NWSL. Also, the WSL last weekend was the first weekend of the WSL. Exciting weekend. We mainly follow Arsenal, I would say, but they are 2-0 because they just played a game today, 5-1 against West Ham, and Von Domselaar kind of made a funny mistake. It was just like a bobble.
Wow, that was like a cartoon fumble.
Hit off the head. I don't think it actually did, but it looks like a hit off the head, hit off the shoulder, and where did it go? It wasn't a big deal. However, West Ham put up a good fight in the first half. So say that was the winning goal. That would have sucked, but I mean, that happens. So Arsenal, obviously, I don't think they won any trophies last season. Obviously other than Champions League, which isn't in league, but I don't think they won anything, and Chelsea won the domestic treble. And so Arsenal, now that they are like, okay, we won Champions League, that's the most exciting. They want to win. They either want to win league or they want to win the Subway Cup.
I haven't heard that one in a while. Yeah. Subway Cup.
They want to win something. And Chelsea's the exact opposite. They're like, okay, we won the domestic treble. That was amazing. We loved it. But we really want to win Champions League. And this year, I think it's the most open for them to win Champions League because Barcelona, we know what's going on at Barcelona, losing their players, having financial troubles.
Troubles, not trebles.
Yeah. So this actually year, I think is one of the most open for Champions League. We will see if they are dominant through Champions League. Now I'm kind of muddling Champions League and league, just regular league. But Arsenal getting off to a great start, 2-0. And the final score today was 5-1 against West Ham. So they hopefully, I mean, they want to win league. They want to win a trophy. They want to win trophies this year. And Olivia Smith, they just signed Canadian Olivia Smith. We didn't even talk about her debut goal in the WSL last week was magnificent. Like goal of the week, goal of the month. So, they're not messing around, but great to see that they played well today. So did everyone watch that? But also talking about Champions League, actually, we just talked about Champions League, this was a big story the last couple of days. Man United, they actually lost their opening match against Brann. They beat United 1-0 yesterday or 2 days ago, and a lot of people are surprised. It was kind of a heartbreaking goal. It was off a set piece.
My Phallon tried her hardest, but unfortunately she couldn't. She couldn't.
Yeah, it was a header. The ball just moved too quickly, and she reacted. If she got her hand a little bit to the right, I think she would have blocked it, saved it. But that is the big story. But technically, that's not the big story. The big story is Man United lost their boots.
Or someone stole them.
Yes, we'll read a couple comments. But their boots disappeared, so they had to go to a store in Norway, buy $3,000 worth of boots, and play on these brand new boots. A lot of the girls, not all the girls, but a lot of the girls did not have their boots. So this could have been a lot worse. But what the heck happened?
Do you have to break those in?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is there always something dramatic like this? Like, oh, someone forgets the kits, someone forgets the boots or socks or whatever.
I'll have Sara read a little bit of this.
Man United dashed to stop before Brann tie to replace boots. Manchester United are investigating how players' boots ended up getting lost before their crucial Women's Champions League qualifier in Norway on Thursday. United officials had to buy replacement boots from a local shop after discovering some had gone missing on the trip to Bergen. The boots' absence was not noticed until the day of the game, as United had trained at Carrington before departure. Club officials arrived at the Torshov sports shop less than 3 hours before kickoff at 16:30 local time and bought 15 pairs of boots and 20 sets of shin guards. It's crazy. We are a big store, but they were very lucky we had enough boots in stock that were the right size. Yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. Shop owner Andre Gullard told BBC Sport they paid between 200 and 230 pounds for each pair of boots and 30 pounds for the shin guards. We have had the odd player come in because they've left their boots behind, but never the entire team. He added, maybe we should have told them we only had boots with no studs to help the local team. At Gullard's estimate, the unscheduled shopping spree would have cost just under £4,000. Wow, what a story.
Yeah, it's just what happened was it, they say they're investigating. All we know right now is that the boots went missing somewhere in transit. And in transit, what does that mean? Does that mean at the airport? Does that mean they left them on the plane? Does that mean they left? Sometimes you go to the airport and you sit down a bag and you forget to pick up the bag. You know what I mean? What does that exactly mean? Was it incompetence? But like you said, was something sinister happening?
Well, this sounds like it's classic Home Alone-ish going on.
Oh, they just forget it? Oh.
They forgot Kevin.
Yeah. No. They forgot Oh, that's a good point. They might have just left them at in Manchester and just said, oh, they lost them. Or I'm surprised they didn't say, well, we think someone stole them. Okay. No one has brought this up. Only I am saying this. I mean, is this like the Hannah Hampton water bottle? Somebody stealing the water bottle and they just stole the boots.
Whatever happened, it's wild stuff.
Yeah. So no, I don't think it's like the water bottle because the water bottle is not part of their official equipment. It's an accessory. Your boots, and that's another point. To go all the way there, one of the most important games of a lot of these players' whole careers playing Champions League, to get there and not have the boots for a lot of the players that you've broken in, formed to your foot already.
I mean, I'd say that's probably the most important equipment to have. I mean, boots, shoes, cleats.
Yeah. So, really upsetting for them because I think most people think United should have won that game, even though Brann, good club, but I don't think that helped them. Upsetting. We'll read some comments at the very end, but did everyone read that? And I actually talked for my GoPro you.
Speaking of stealing, Sarah just stole my cord.
She found a cord where we record our video, and now she's accusing me of stealing it.
My GoPro charger.
Oh, sorry about that. But also talking about Marc Skinner, who is the coach of Manchester United, he was not happy about something, and he wasn't happy with the fact that Brann, the Norwegian team, was celebrating a little too much for his liking. To set up the game, United probably did play better overall. They did miss some chances. But if you can't score, you're not going to win the game. So maybe they did possibly play better. But Marc Skinner said Brann were celebrating like though they won the whole thing practically. So I'll have Sarah read this.
What Skinner said. Speaking to the media, Skinner said, "We were the better team, but we didn't win the game. We lost on a set piece, which is something we've got to be more aggressive within the box. We created chances, but just weren't clinical enough. But let me be very clear. It's halftime. Brann are celebrating like they've already won the tie. So let's see when they come back to Leigh. Other than that, Phallon's had nothing to do, and that's European football. I've told the girls, don't drop your shoulders. It's halftime, and we can all use that energy against them next week when we play at home. Sometimes a team gets lucky, the ball doesn't fall for you, and that's okay. That's football. That's why you have two legs. Now we take them back to Leigh Sports Village, where we'll need our fans to turn up in great numbers, be loud, and make it even tougher than it was here tonight. Let's see if Brann can deal with that pressure, because at the end of the game, they were already in the deepest of blocks. If we put them there early and are clinical, we'll win the tie."
Yeah, so he wasn't happy with their celebrating, which I get as a team that maybe wasn't expected to win to get excited. But, I mean, it is two legs, so you do well first leg. So they're ahead now on the first leg. It gives them an advantage. However, United's going to be really pumped up for the next leg. Also, they'll have their correct boots on the right shoes on. But I don't think Skinner said anything wrong. I think he was just frustrated. He was probably about frustrated about everything, including the boots and including everything. But also, that being said, the other team to celebrate a lot sometimes is, you haven't quite won the series yet, if you know what I mean. So I don't know. I don't think anyone did anything wrong. It's just that's sports.
Oh, let them have it. We all need to celebrate something these days.
That's true. Hey, you won something, even though it wasn't the full, you're not moving on quite yet, but you won the game. So yeah, that's a good point. But also, I guess this was kind of my connection to my next story, that Marc Skinner actually had a quote about spending in football. I think we were going to talk about that, but I actually don't think we're going to talk about, because what I actually want to talk about is what we talked about last time. His comment was so in the WSL, we know they don't have salary caps for the individual teams. He kind of did an interview and he talked about that he thinks the club transfer fees are getting a little exorbitant. And I didn't read the full interview, but he said it's becoming like the Wild West. More money you can get this, if you can't, it isn't as many rules as maybe there should be or whatnot. Okay, but going on to what we talked about last time with Alyssa Thompson, the idea of a salary cap in the NWSL. Obviously, WSL doesn't have it. They have fair play. If you make a lot of money, you can spend a lot of money, which kind of turns the teams into the have and have-nots. NWSL doesn't have that. They have salary caps, so it has parity. Okay, so we talked about it. Tobin and Christen, right when that news came out, their episode of Re-Ink show came out right away talking about salary cap, and they explained a lot about the salary cap and kind of what they thought about it. They mostly said that has to be changed, modified, eliminated. We didn't even talk about this in our video, but the salary cap is getting higher throughout the years. I believe it's 3.3 million. By 2030, it's going to be 5 million. So it is raising, but people were saying that's not enough. So that was kind of their stance. Now, Sam, Mewis and Becky Sauerbrunn obviously have their podcast. And a couple days after the Re-Ink podcast came out, Becky and Sam had a podcast, talked about a lot of the similar things. I mean, equally as informative and insightful, a lot of things I didn't know about. I love getting the perspective from the players because they actually lived it. Now, where I'm going with this, as much as they're all four former players, they have two very different ideas about things. I think what I'm going to do, but I think I'm going to play it because I think it actually kind of shows the differences between smart, knowledgeable people having two completely opposite opinions in a sense. And they talked about a solution for the salary cap. And one of the ideas is what is called a designated player. The video clip I'm going to play, I think, explains what a designated player is, but it's to help teams bring in more money by having certain players whose salary doesn't go toward the salary cap, if that kind of makes sense. And I think I'm explaining it well. I am going to play the video, but they have two different ideas about what the answer is. I'm going to first play what Becky said, a possible designated player, bringing that to the end of WSL.
To get into here, but Becky, what's your initial thought with abolishing the salary cap?
Oh, okay. I think we've reached a bit of an inflection point for the NWSL. Something has to give, or else we will continue to lose some big name players, and not just the big name players, but players you want to build franchises around, players you want in your league for the majority of their careers. You'll continue to either lose those players or be able to attract big name players to the league. So I think introducing a designated player rule, which is something that we've talked about before, is a possible good solution. These players' salaries do not hit the salary cap at their full amounts, which allows for teams to have franchise players and for the teams to have the money to fill out the rest of the roster with strong professionals. So, for example, you could pay a top player over $1 million per year, but their salary only hits the cap at $500K. It keeps the competitiveness of the league comparable while also giving teams the opportunity to keep or attract the type of talent that helps to sell tickets.
Yeah, I think the designated player rule does sound familiar to me. You and I have definitely talked about it before. And it's something that we can talk about as like a possible solution to losing talent to England or Europe in general.
Becky said that, but I'm going to play you exactly what Tobin said 3-4 days ago.
If I ever hear the word designated player or quote unquote DP come out of anybody's mouth when they're talking about what the NWSL should do to solve this problem, this to me would signal the end of our league.
Let's explain what a designated player is.
It's basically essentially where you get to pay 1, 2, 3 players. They don't go into the salary cap, so that you could pay Sophia Smith without screwing the whole rest of your team.
And why are you so passionate against it?
If you create a system where 1 player or 2 players is deserving of some ridiculous amount of money and the rest of the team is basically paid what the NWSL is currently paying the rest of their players, this creates a massive chasm between the worth of players. And I don't believe that belongs in team sports. And I believe that every single player should have the same right to go out and fight for their value and their worth. And I don't want to see only 3 good players on each team.
So basically, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty what they said because they had a lot of conversation. But my point to play those 2 clips back to back is for 4 people, all former players, all having different ideas what the answer is. You get what I'm saying? You wouldn't say, look at Becky Sauerbrunn and saying, oh my gosh, she wouldn't know what she's talking about because who knows? It's Becky Sauerbrunn, very knowledgeable. Tobin Heath, same kind of thing. Well, Tobin Heath would know what the league needs, but they have different ideas what the answer is. Now, some of their ideas weren't necessarily polar opposites, because what Becky said was kind of like, that could be a possible outcome. That could be a possible solution, something like a designated player, or even Sam Mewis talked about kind of what they call in the NBA called like a Larry Bird rule, which allows a franchise player to be re-signed and it doesn't affect the salary cap. Something like that. Definitely go and watch the episode. But I just think it's funny. I heard Becky say that, and then I heard Tobin say that, and I go, wait a second. These 4 brilliant people about soccer have different ideas. So I think it's interesting, especially when everyone's trying to come up with a solution. Not all the times these really knowledgeable players have the same solution.
Yeah, I find it very interesting because obviously we all respect these 4 players. So yeah, it's interesting to see different perspectives on it.
Yeah, because you could have not they're not going to go have a debate about this, but when they talk about the CBA and the NWSL, Tobin says it would end the league because you would have players kind of on a pedestal that makes all this money, and then Becky's kind of saying, yeah, but that would help. That could help because that wouldn't go toward the salary cap. It's just 2 different ideas. So I thought that was interesting. Did everyone see that? Definitely watch those 2 episodes because they're so good. They explain a lot. And they kind of talked about, they did kind of have designated players when the U.S. women's national players were allocated players. And they talked about in this episode. But basically the allocated players were U.S. women's national team would pay the salaries of the players who were allocated players, a certain amount of players who were always called up. So that didn't go against, so the clubs didn't have to pay for those because the funds were limited even just a few years ago. So it's so interesting. I mean, what's the answer? We don't know. But I think most people say if the owners have money to pay, they're saying they need to be able to pay them to get to retain talent to the NWSL. And also in that podcast with Sam and Becky, they also talked about Alyssa might have gone no matter what if the money were similar. Kind of like it might not have been an all about a money thing. It might have just been Alyssa wanting to go play for Chelsea, win Champions League, and even if Angel City offered the same amount of money, she might have still left. Now, they did say, I believe they said, if Angel City offered her considerably more, she might have stayed. So I believe that's what they said. But check out that episode. It's very interesting. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to read comments, but this is like 4 days after we recorded the video. We just got super busy, and I feel like I have a broken record when I say that, but I think what we're going to do is just start making the videos shorter, and we'll see if that happens. Sarah's laughing at me because I like a long video, but we're going to read some comments from what we talked about. But also, this weekend was exciting. We talked about the Arsenal game at the beginning of the video, but actually just today, Sunday, Chelsea beats Aston Villa 3-1, I believe the score was. If it wasn't, I'll put it on the screen. But after 642 days of being absent, tearing her ACL, who freaking scored a goal today in that game?
Sam motherfucking Kerr.
Yeah, that was the game was on at 6 a.m. our time, and so I didn't watch it live. But the moment I heard she scored, I was pumped, so excited, so very happy to see that. A, they won, but B, seeing her back and her scoring. So that was great to see. So excited to see that. Also, this just kind of happened tonight. We were watching the Racing Louisville and Seattle Reign game, and Savannah DeMelo, she went down and had a medical incident. I hope she's okay. I did not know this, but she's openly talked about having Graves' disease and affects your heart and your thyroid. I don't know much about that, but I hope she's okay. I believe last year she had an incident too. She ended up alert when she left the field last year. This time, after the Savvy King thing, they weren't taking any chances. They cut to break and they did not finish the game. I believe they're going to play it, make it up or something. I'm not quite sure. Long story short, I hope she is okay. That's the first thing that is the only thing that matters when things like that happen. So I hope she is okay. Okay, but we're going to go from comments from what we just talked about what Becky and Sam and Tobin and Christen had to say about the idea of salary cap, retaining players in the NWSL, what the NWSL should do, shouldn't do, as we talked about. 4 brilliant minds, all with slightly different opinions, I suppose. I'll read a couple comments from around the web because I think it's such an interesting conversation. Okay, I'm going to start with this one.
I do think for a league like the NWSL that's still trying to establish itself, there needs to be a balance between parity and increasing the profile and financial stability of the league. Maybe there could even be a revenue sharing system similar to what the NHL uses to help keep small market teams afloat. Losing a star like Alyssa Thompson hurts the entire league. As you mentioned, there's already 8 U.S. women's national team players in Europe instead of playing in the U.S. Imagine if someone like Trinity Rodman leaves too.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like a solution, like they said, like the NHL, I guess that does that, which I think is what there's going to eventually come to, a solution that maybe isn't a hard salary cap and it isn't the wild, wild west. You know what I mean? So we will see. And then someone right here says,
I couldn't disagree more about DP. Usually agree with Becky, but no, we do not want NWSL to be the MLS where old icons come to semi-retire.
I mean, I just picked that comment out because it was someone who disagreed with Becky, because there's going to be people who disagree with Tobin as well. And then I see a comment right here. It says, I need a Tobin Becky debate about designated players immediately. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I saw Tobin's comments and then Becky's comments. Yeah, and then someone underneath it says, I literally was just thinking this the whole time, coming from the recap show and hearing how they are so against it. It's interesting. Exactly. I think a lot of people are talking about it.
Great conversation about the salary cap and how to keep the talent in the NWSL. It's so great to hear the opinions of Sam, Becky, CP, and Tobin with their analysis about the state of the league on how to make it better. Cheers.
And then somebody on another video, I think I saw this on TikTok, says Tobin's idea about the salary, about DPs, it can be a problem too. I'll have Sara read some of this comment.
The problem that she's worried would be created is actually already what the cap does. A disproportionate amount of the team's cap already goes to the player that they consider the best. The problem with the current system is that money is coming out of everyone else's pocket. No one can ask for a raise without someone else not being able to get one. A cap raise and DP program at the same time seems like the way to go.
Yeah, I feel like, do you guys mostly think DPs are the way to go, or a modified DP? I don't know. Very interesting. Very interesting. And it makes sense for new leagues, young leagues. You know what I mean? So when you're a young league, things like this are all part of making it great, you know? Okay, so that's the conversation about DPs, Becky, Tobin. And then I have some other comments. Yeah, I have this graphic here. Boots lost in transit. Remember, this was 5 days ago by now, Sara. So I don't say.
Boots. Did we ever talk about that? No.
So, Manchester United losing their boots, losing Sabotage. Were they stolen? We just don't know. They probably were never taken or lost somewhere. I don't think they were taken, but could be. I mean, could be. And then people commenting saying, someone goes, am I delusional that I always thought they'd have their boots in their own bag? That's an interesting point. Would you bring your own gear? I think for a top team in Europe for the women, you would think it would be the kit person doing it. I think maybe a lower league would do it, but not not the best league in Europe for women. Or I guess, you guys know what I'm saying when I say that.
Well, no, I wouldn't trust other people with my stuff.
I know. Well, that's what they say. Keep all your stuff so you know what's going to happen. And then someone goes, the person responsible for taking care of the kit is having a bad day. Yeah, they're having a really bad day. And then I'll read this comment, and this is just kind of talking about United as a club.
Given what we keep hearing, why would any good player want to be at UTD these days? There are plenty of other teams who have more respect and integrity. Don't be blinded by the badge. You'll receive more respect and get treated better playing for Tier 4 teams than you would at UTD. Sad times, as it should be a much more respectable club in women's football. It's become a bit of a joke club now and seems to be the poster club of all that's wrong within women's football.
Okay, so that was kind of a harsh comment about United, but I'm sure United supporters just want the best for their team, and also saying, hey, we can't be forgetting the boots, even though Arsenal forgot the socks. But I think when you forget the boots, that is so important. We talked about it. That's like the most important part of the equipment. So it does kind of suck, but yeah, I have this comment right here, and I think this might be the title of the video: Sabotage or Incompetence. I don't know.
That's wild.
Or both. Pathetic. And then someone goes, pathetic. How'd it go missing? So people are just saying, how does this happen? But I guess it happens. And then someone goes, this club is finished. It's a complete laughingstock. Typical Man United behavior. I guess those are the main comments we had. But we talked about interesting things. Arsenal winning, looking good. United forgetting the boots. I would say this is worse than Sockgate, which is so funny about that. Sockgate, it's almost like a mental thing because everyone can see. No one knows if you don't have your correct boots on if you're a player, but everyone can see if you have the incorrect socks on. You get what I'm saying like that? So mentally, this is easier. Sockgate was harder for the players, I think, being a little more embarrassed mentally because, I'm wearing Chelsea socks. So I actually think Sockgate was, in terms of equipment, boots worse, but in terms of mental kind of embarrassment, socks were worse because everyone sees what's going on.
Yeah, none of it's good.
Yeah. But what is everything? Questions, comments down below. Yeah, exciting second weekend of WSL. Playoff race heating up. Our team Gotham somehow is in third place after this weekend. I could not believe it. I mean, I could. What is everything? Questions, comments down below. And yeah, I think I'm going to finally have to go down to shorter videos, 10 minutes. And I sound like a broken record. If I were listening to us, I'd be kind of annoyed with us keep saying it's taking a while to come out. But I'm just going to come out with shorter videos, I think. That was
Don't hold her to it, though.
Questions, comments down below. We'll talk to everyone later. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.